are so excited you guys joined us tonight, and we're going to talk about a few things. We were just talking before this, and we got a little fired up.
I got so fired up.
We said some bad words, but
It's a good thing. It's a good thing I'm on my thyroid. I would be really cold right now.
so we wanted you guys to pop on here tonight. We want to talk about, the huge elephant in the room, which is this FDA trying to take away desiccated thyroid medication. So there's 1.5 million people in the United States reported on desiccated thyroid medication right now. There's probably more.
Yep.
But Dr. Terri and I were just talking about desiccated thyroid medication has been around for 100 years, right?
Yep.
Is that what we were talking about?
Early 1900s. Yep.
So it was actually around long before Synthroid and levothyroxine and all these other things. And so now all of a sudden the FDA wants to take it off of the market, right? We were just looking, Dr. Terri told me 1938, Armour got grandfathered in, got to be able to stay when the FDA started, making all these rules, right? And Synthroid came out. But I guess my question to you, let's talk about this. What does it actually mean to be an FDA approved medication? What does that mean?
Well, you want me to say what I said when I was all fired up. It doesn't mean shit is what I said. But it does. I don't want to blanketly say that because, there are obviously the FDA is there to, protect. It was born from the intention to protect consumers, right? But I think we all know it's kind of grown into more of a follow the money conversation. So this day and age, has a heck of a lot to do with do you have enough money to put a drug through an FDA approval process, which is millions of dollars, and who has money to do that? Big pharma does. Pharmaceutical companies do, for sure. But one of the things that's really interesting about FDA approved drugs is people make such a big deal out of FDA approved drugs and, oh, is this FDA approved? But the reality is FDA approved drugs kill people every day. So although its intention is good, you got to really look at what was the trial, who was in the trial, how long was it trialed, because they don't have to trial it with very many people or for very long. So in a lot of these FDA trials, we don't know long-term safety data outcomes. So it's fascinating to me that all of a sudden, after desiccated thyroid has been used commercially for over 100 years, since the early 1900s, now all of a sudden, and there have been no sentinel adverse events, meaning nobody's died from taking this medication that's been reported. And all of a sudden now we have to make it only available through an FDA product. That makes me think, and it made me research, well, what drug companies are trying to get their thyroid products FDA approved? And I think we figured that out.
Yeah, so I completely agree. This is it's crazy on so many levels. But to me, 1.5 million people, I mean, I've had patients, I don't know about you, I've had people call my office this week like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You can't take me off my thyroid medication. And so I think the one thing that we want to tell people, like, don't panic. We honestly think this is hopefully going to wash itself out. There's a ton of coalitions that are being formed. I'm part of one. We're going to ask Dr. Terri to be a part of it with Nicole McPherson and with Amy Horniman and with Isabella Wentz. We're putting together this big Save NDT. We're going to have a petition that we need people to sign. So once we get it all organized, we're going to circulate it. But you and I were just talking about, we don't think that this hopefully will ever come to fruition just because the millions of people that take this medication.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge backlash. And, I know just from my experience, there are patients that have tried multiple thyroid commercially available synthetic thyroid medications. And although their labs looked normal, because nobody checks the right labs with thyroid hardly, except those of us that have trained like us. But although their labs look normal, they still feel terrible. They still have metabolic issues. They're cold hands, cold feet, losing hair, can't lose weight, all of the depression, anxiety, all of these symptoms that are related to thyroid that they don't even realize that. But every time they go to the doctor, and this, well, your labs were normal. So they finally find a product that works for them. And now they're faced with having to not have a choice. And so I don't know about you, but, there's a problem with patients transitioning from one thyroid medication to another. Talk about that, because that's going to be a real problem for this 1.5 million people if they have to transition to something commercially available only.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue. So, like you pointed out, there are tons of thyroid patients who have bounced from medication to medication to medication, and it takes a long time, even as an endocrinologist, to find a medicine that works for a thyroid patient, right?
Yep.
Not every medicine works for every patient. And so, I am outraged in the fact that patients should have a choice, right? I
Yep.
want a choice. And so, if I do well on NP, or I do well on Armour, or I do well on RIM thyroid, or I do well on compounded, or whatever I do well on, and I can function as a human, and my provider wants to give me, damn it, I should be able to take it.
That's
Like, it's
right.
my body, it's my provider. It's none of your business, FDA.
Yep.
Like, as long as it's not killing me, it's not killing me. Then I
Yep.
should be able to do what I want. And it's frustrating to me as a provider, you too. Like, the FDA already like handcuffs us in so many ways of what you can and can't do for a patient. And it's like, how can you come in and tell us how to treat one of the most common diseases right now, especially in
100%.
women, right? And I almost wonder, like, I'm gonna go out there for a second, but like, this is a disease that affects women, right? If this was a disease that affected men like this, do you think this shit would be happening? Like, I don't
Well,
know, but I bet there'd be a lot of people in Washington that got real upset if there
hey,
were
it's the
all these
same thing
men.
with
If
hormones.
this was
I'm like,
Viagra, if
come
this
on,
shit was
guys.
Viagra, this would be
Listen,
like,
this is all we have to do, Dr. Cassie, is we have to make sure that Washington understands that desiccated thyroid improves erectile function. It'll never go
yeah,
away.
exactly. Do you want your wife to have sex with you, or do you want your penis to work and
Exactly.
need desiccated thyroid hormone? This will all go away.
It'll all
No,
go
but I
away
mean,
forever.
I'm serious though. Like, I almost feel like this is a woman's issue for the most
Mm.
part. And it's just frustrating because as a patient with thyroid disease, if you find something that actually works for you, it is so hard to
Oh,
find that
gosh.
medication, to get that right, to find a provider that listens to you, to find a provider that, will find the labs that actually help you feel better. And then once you get there, somebody's like, oh, you can't take this medicine anymore. I mean, we saw this a few years ago whenever we were
Yeah.
having
Desiccated thyroid
the
has been
West
beat
thyroid
up.
went off of an
Yeah.
NP. Yeah. And so it's
It,
just like, this is going to be such a train wreck disaster, not only for people's lives, for their morbidity, for their mental wellness, but also for providers. Like, man, I
yeah.
take care of a ton of thyroid patients. Like, this is going to be horrible for them too.
Yeah, and you're
So
one
it's
of the
just
rare endocrinologists that actually understands, uses, and promotes desiccated thyroid because you understand the science behind it.
right. And so it's just going to be a huge issue, huge health issue for all these millions of people. So for the FDA to come in and just say, well, we don't care, we're taking this drug off the market, it's a big, big
It's a
problem.
big issue. And we have a year allegedly, so it's not like it's going to go away tomorrow, but they want to give providers a year to start transitioning their patients to FDA approved products. Now, currently right now, the only FDA approved thyroid products are synthetic T4, Synthroid, or levothyroxine, and synthetic T3, as you know. And a lot of people do not do well on those, and you know why. Blocks deiodinase enzymes. I mean, we could get into a whole conversation about how that works. There are some desiccated thyroid products under it going through FDA approval process right now. It's going to be 2 to 3 years. But what's interesting to me is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies that has got their desiccated thyroid product, Armour Thyroid, in FDA trials, also owns Synthroid. So there's some speculation that all of this FDA, all this kind of witch hunt on desiccated thyroid has come from some inquiries from AbbVie, which is the company that owns Synthroid and Armour Thyroid. So if they push this through, they're going to have the monopoly on the market, and that's really, people need to understand, follow the money, and it really infringes upon medical freedoms, just like we're seeing in the compounded GLP-1 worlds, where the pharmaceutical companies are trying to force patients to only use the commercially prepared, very expensive products, and it ekes out a lot of people. A lot of patients can't afford these medications because of that. So it's a fight. It's a problem. It fires me up, as you can see, and we got to make sure that people are educated and understand the facts behind it so they know how to respond.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's infuriating. And AbbVie, yes, who owns Synthroid, does own Armour Thyroid, so it's kind of strange. But
Yeah.
also, to your point, people that So the Endocrine Society is our fault. We say, you should treat people with T4, you should give them levothyroxine and Synthroid. But let's talk about side effects of levothyroxine for a second. Like, if you really look it up, I mean, levothyroxine actually has shown to increase your blood sugar, to increase your cholesterol. I mean, there are issues with levothyroxine as well. When you're blocking, you're giving somebody T4, but maybe they're not healthy enough to convert to T3, which is our active thyroid hormone. And so the FDA trying to say that, oh, these desiccated thyroid hormones are, harmful. Well, let's talk about all the harm that T4 can cause in people.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that people they can't live their lives because they're so tired.
And let's first, for everybody that's listening, let's just talk about the differences between what's in desiccated thyroid products and then commercially available Synthroid. I mean, this is obviously you talk about it. You're the endocrinologist. I could speak to it as well. But, people need to understand why desiccated thyroid products work so much better, or it's reported to. I mean, I have converted thousands, I don't even know the count now, of either started them on desiccated thyroid or converted them from Synthroid because they weren't feeling good. And I cannot tell, I have had maybe in 16 years, I can count on one hand how many people said, no, I want to stay on my Synthroid because I actually felt better on it. It happens sometimes, but it is so rare. So what's the difference between the two for everybody that's on here?
Yeah, I mean, so desiccated thyroid hormone has T3, your active thyroid hormone. So our body makes T4. Our brain sends a signal, TSH, to our thyroid to make thyroid hormone. The thyroid hormone our thyroid makes is 95% T4, okay? Although we need T4, it's like a pre-hormone, it's a precursor. It doesn't do anything.
It's a pro hormone, right?
It's a pro hormone. So it does nothing. So then the T4 comes out of our thyroid, and our body has to convert T4 into T3 through deiodinase enzymes, like Dr. Terri was talking about. Well, the problem with that in this world, this crazy world that we live in, is that if you're stressed out, if you have insulin resistance, if you're on medications like metformin or birth control or statins, if
ADD
so many
meds.
different things, if you're anemic, if you have hormone issues, that conversion, if you have dysbiosis, leaky gut, anything wrong with your gut, that conversion from T4 to T3, it doesn't happen. Your body can't convert it. There's too much inflammation. It can't see. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to take T4 and do something to T3, but there's all this inflammation. I can't see anything. And so you just have this T4 floating around. And your cells, your energy, your hair, your mood, it needs T3. And so your cells have these receptors and they're like, oh my God, where's the T3? It can't be made because there's too much inflammation. And so just giving people more T4 doesn't work. Like that's why if you have been on T4 and your doctor goes up on the dose and up on the dose and up on the dose, and you're like, nothing's working, it's because it has to convert to active T3 in order for your cell to accept it. So desiccated thyroid hormone already has T3. It's already there. It takes a step away from your body. It says, okay, you know what, I'm just going to give you what you need. Even when we give people desiccated thyroid hormone, the reason it's so hard to get the dose right, and the reason millions of people are still hypothyroid and have hypothyroid symptoms, it's not because they're lying to you and they want to waste your money as a provider. It's because even though they have T3, the T3 has to be taken into the cell. And what causes T3 to not go into the cell? Inflammation, hormone resistance, low hormones, dysbiosis, yada yada, chronic stress, all the things.
Yep. So you got to address all that. And the other thing too that people need to understand is one of the most important organs in the body can't convert T3 from T4 and needs as much T3 as it can get, and that's the heart. There are direct correlations between low free T3 syndrome, low T3, and cardiovascular disease, congestive heart failure, and you cannot get your T3 levels up with T4 only. And this is why these lawmakers need to be educated that patients need a choice. And they'll say, oh yeah, well they can go on synthetic T3. Okay, I don't see that it works that well. And plus you have to take it a minimum of 3 times a day. Who wants to have to take a medication 3 times a day just to get their T3 levels up when they can take a desiccated thyroid once, maybe twice a day, and get what they need there? So people don't understand. They think thyroid is just related to I'm losing my hair, or my hands are cold, or my feet are cold, or I can't lose weight, or things like that. But it plays a huge role in depression, in anxiety, mood disorders, cardiovascular disease, immune function, like you said. And it is such a much bigger picture than just put people on T4. Well, there's a reason you said T4 is associated with increased rates of insulin resistance. Well, that makes sense to me, because if you're blocking the conversion to T3, that's going to affect everything in your body, right? Your gut, your insulin, all of it. So, yeah, I get really upset about it because I
Well,
get.
thyroid is so important. Like, in your book, you spend a whole chapter talking about thyroid. In my book that's coming out, there's a whole chapter about thyroid and how your thyroid hormone, I mean, it's important for your hair and for your energy and for your mood but for your weight. But what it's really important for is like thyroid hormone also affects so many other hormones in your body. It
Yeah.
affects your melatonin, it affects your sex hormones, it affects your gut. And so,
Yep.
like, if somebody's thyroid is off and they're truly hypothyroid, they are not going to be well because it's going to start affecting other things. Their insulin's going to be high, their cortisol is going to be high, they're going to
Yep.
have less melatonin, they're going to sleep worse. Now their gut's going to get affected because you're not moving food through your gut fast enough. Now you start to get dysbiosis, you get bacterial overgrowth, you get leaky gut. Now the leaky gut's making your insulin worse, it's making
Yep.
your cortisol worse, you stop making testosterone, and it's a nightmare, and it
The
just
list goes
repeats
on and
itself.
on.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
So
if you take that away from people, then how are they going to get well? And if you're already scared, so here's the other thing: providers are already scared to give you desiccated thyroid hormone because you get all these stupid letters from insurance companies, because
yeah.
obviously insurance companies know how to treat a damn patient. But you get all
Well,
these.
it's because, let everybody know, the insurance companies are contracted with the drug companies, and that's why they're trying to force us to prescribe those specific drugs.
Yeah. So like I get a stack of letters, well I used to, like this big every month from, dear Dr. Smith, your patient John Doe is on desiccated thyroid hormone. You should change them immediately because the guidelines say they shouldn't be on this. I'm like, oh my God. The guidelines that were made in 2012 that don't even make sense, that have been, the guy who wrote the thyroid guidelines, Dr. Jeff Garber, he wrote the 2012 Endocrine Society guidelines about hypothyroidism. He then wrote a paper shortly after that said TSH actually doesn't matter, and here's all the reasons why. So we can't even
And they
get
haven't
behind
changed
our
the
own guidelines.
guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't even get behind our own guidelines as as a society, as an endocrine society, which is embarrassing, I think. So it's a problem. But like insurance companies try to dictate and tell us, oh, don't give your patient T3 because whatever reason they want to make up. So providers are already scared to give patients desiccated thyroid. Like they're already scared. And then now we have this. And so it's going to be such an access problem for patients, like patients who are advocates for themselves, which you need to be. Like we both want you to be advocates for
100%.
yourself. And if your provider won't give you the medicine that will make you feel better,
Find somebody that will.
provider. Yeah, but like this is just going to make it worse. It's going to make it harder on patients. It's going to make it harder on providers. And it's just super frustrating. And it's probably all a big money issue.
It's a big money issue. I'm convinced of it, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I want to, think the best. But as you know, I've been up in DC a lot. I've been working with policy groups, and they really are trying to kind of shift the landscape in this area. But it's just they're lacking the right information. And I'll tell you, we've been in front of the FDA with, we had, as started some lawsuits about a year or two ago around the peptide conversation. And what's unfortunate about being in front of the panel in the FDA is even when they have experts on the panel that are physicians, they practice in institutions. They don't see patients on a regular. So you've got people making decisions at the FDA that are getting information that is incorrect, inaccurate, out of date. And when you try to, for us as the representatives of the people for medical freedom that were speaking up, what was crazy is in this particular event, when we were at the FDA last December, the FDA had an hour and a half to make their presentation in their case. They gave us 3 minutes. How are you supposed to counter? And then when they countered our 3 minutes, we couldn't counter back. It's set up to fail the people, and people need to understand this. And what we're doing with this is, it's a bold conversation we're having, but I feel more empowered to have the conversation these days, because people need to understand what's really going on. And contact your legislators. This is, if we can inundate, and part of these grassroots efforts that are going to be coming your way, and we'll post them on our Instagram here and all of our social channels, are ways to contact your legislators to go, listen, this can't happen. And it's going to take a grassroots effort. They've tried to shut desiccated thyroid down, as you said. When was it? Like several years ago, it was a whole thing. And then they couldn't get the raw material. And then some companies like RLC Labs just bought their own pig farms and started, making their own. And, it's unfortunate. It's a game and I hate it, obviously.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. So FDA had 90 minutes and you had 3 minutes and then they rebutted and you had nothing. Like
Yep.
it's all the power struggle. And that's what's frustrating is like,
Well, they had an agenda.
yeah,
And it was just a fluff, a show to show that they were giving us a chance to speak, but they had already had their mind made up about what we were trying to argue in favor of the safety and efficacy of peptides, specific peptides that we were there talking about. It's going to be the same thing with this. So we just have to be armed with a big grassroots effort. And you can't argue that a commercially available drug that's been available for over 100 years and now all of a sudden it's somehow a safety issue for people. I mean, come on, that's just BS. That's just
right. What were
BS.
you doing for the last 100 years? Well, I
Yeah,
guess
exactly. Like,
what were you doing since 1938 when
yeah,
you allowed the drug to be grandfathered in?
yeah,
Well, and the
exactly.
other thing that I think really bothers me about this too, and just the whole FDA in general, and the more I practice medicine, what really bothers me about it is like I went into medicine to help people, right? I have a ton of training, a ton. And we get so much training as providers that you don't even get in school, right? The training you get in
Oh,
school, a lot of it is garbage. But
and it's
when
basic.
when you've treated somebody for 10 years and you know everything about them and you've seen them good and bad and in different places, which I have the privilege, it's the best privilege in the world of being
Yeah,
able to help people. And then
100%.
some agency tries to come in my ear and say, oh, in general, this is how you're going to treat people because we're going to put them in this box.
Yeah,
Medicine was never made to put people in damn boxes. And this is
that's
what
right.
just infuriates me. In school, they try to teach you everyone fits in this box. You put
Yeah,
them in the box. And if they don't fit in the box, you give them an antidepressant.
yeah.
Or, I mean, that's what they try to teach you.
Or a
Like, if you
sleeping
can't
pill and
get
anxiety.
somebody,
Let's just dumb everybody down with
yeah,
drugs if they
exactly.
fit in the
But the
box.
problem is that everyone doesn't fit in a box.
Yeah.
And medicine was meant, like, if you go back 2,500 years and you look at Hippocrates and the teaching of medicine and the true teaching of healing, everyone's different. Everyone's body is different, and you're supposed to have this sacred relationship with your provider, right?
That's
Your
right.
provider, you're going to trust this provider. And I tell my patients this all the time, like, I'm not trying to dictate your care. I give people options, and then I say, what do you want to do, right?
Yep.
And as long as it's not going to kill you and I'm not going to hurt you, I'm on your side. Like, I'm here to educate
Right.
you.
Same.
I'm here to tell you what you need, and then I'm here to help you figure that out. I am in no way here to dictate what you do as your doctor. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Why does the FDA get to come in and dictate what a doctor does with their patient? It's just like so frustrating to me. It's like this relationship that we have, me and you, as a patient doctor. We don't need anyone else over here in our ear telling us what we can and can't do because they have no idea what the hell is going on with you and your life and your labs and anything about you. Like nothing.
100%. It's another, of the alphabet soup that has way too much overreach. And again, like I said, probably in 1938, the intention of, obviously creating the FDA had good intentions behind it, but like everything else, it becomes power and money. And now I really believe, and I believe that there probably are people at the FDA that really think they are doing the best for citizens, but they're not as common as we would
How? How
like.
are they doing the best for
I
citizens when
think it's
nobody
just
has died on
ignorance
this
is bliss.
medicine?
I think it's because they get the pharmaceutical companies that have the FDA's ear have experts educating the FDA on their bias. And so if I'm an FDA, and listen, I'll say this from the perspective of just being at those trials for peptides, I kind of play devil's advocate and I'm like, listen, if I'm a multi-degreed scientist from Johns Hopkins and I'm on the panel listening to what the FDA is saying and I really have never treated a patient with a peptide and I really don't understand peptides, I'd probably vote against them also because I'm going to err on the side of caution, right? Because I'm getting all this information that's making me question the safety and the efficacy So the first thing that kind of has to really change is making it an equal playing field and giving all sides of the conversation opportunities to present data and present evidence, to, so people do have a choice and patients do have a choice. And at the end of the day, to your point, I don't need a regulatory body to tell me, to your point, what is best for my patient that I have a relationship with, that I know how to treat. Nor do I need an insurance company or anything else, which is why we don't even take insurance anymore, as you know. So I fully agree with that. We need some, I wouldn't be sad if the FDA went away, but
Well, and here's the other thing. If we're going to do that, these experts that the FDA have, at least they should be people who are competent enough to take care of patients. Like, I don't care how smart you are, how many PhDs you have out. Like, good for you. Have you ever taken care of a patient? Have you been in a room when somebody's cried? Have you been in a room have you been in the trenches, in the battlefield,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
have you been there? Because if you haven't, and you haven't treated at least 5,000 people with thyroid disease, you shouldn't get to make a damn decision about what people with
100%,
thyroid disease get to take and what they don't get to
100%,
take. If you're
100%.
just sitting there learning, great. But like, I'm an endocrinologist. I know a ton about thyroid. I went to school, I trained, I did, and I also am in the trenches and I treat people. So
Yeah,
put me on the panel and let me help you decide. It's
yeah,
not fair to take people who just have studied things that are from school. And again, we know school agendas in the United States a lot of times come from pharmaceutical
yep.
companies.
Pharmaceuticals,
So
yeah,
of course they're going to say that because they learned in school. And I'm not saying that they're not educated people. Sure, they're educated, but book smart and street smart, book smart and like real life smart are very different
very
things.
different. Not everybody
Like,
fits in
they're
that.
so different. If I treated people like I was told to in endocrinology fellowship, I would not have a practice because people
Yeah,
wouldn't come back
yeah.
because
Well,
everyone would
that's
get
what,
an
listen,
SSRI and I would
we
ignore
talk
them.
about, we talk about the studies, and there are studies that looked at, these are patient surveys, thousands, tens of thousands of patients that have done these surveys on their satisfaction with their desiccated thyroid medication versus their Synthroid, because these are all patients that converted from levothyroxine or Synthroid to desiccated thyroid, and 98% of the time they preferred the desiccated thyroid. And when they rated their provider, they liked their provider that prescribed the desiccated thyroid better. Why? Because that provider listened to them and helped them with their options. And that's actually published studies. So it's crazy to me. And there are long-term safety studies on thyroid. We talk about them and teach them to all of our doctors when we do our trainings, as you know. So
Yeah, and it's just a nuance to actually listen to patients these days.
yeah.
That's,
So
that's
everybody, if
it.
you're on thyroid, speak up for yourself. Watch for these grassroots initiatives. Keep the conversation going. Share this recording of this Instagram live and get the word out there, because this is going to be a fight. It's just going to be a fight.
Yes, please do that. So we're going to post this recording and then please make sure that you like it, you interact with it, you share it with as many people as you can, because the more you interact with it and the more you share it, the more it gets pushed out to people who don't even know who we are. But then if
Yeah.
they're thyroid patients, then they get on board, and we will link the coalition
Yeah.
that McCall and all of us are like Save NDT and the petition for that. But it should be organized hopefully by tomorrow. And so,
Awesome.
but the more you guys interact with this and the more you want to make your voice heard, I think that social media platforms are an amazing way to do this
100%.
now. So I don't care if you share this with every single person you have, but
Yeah.
people need to know,
People
like, this is a
understand.
problem. You definitely know somebody who's hypothyroid. 100% you know someone who's hypothyroid. So we just have to pull together.
Yeah, and even if you're not, if you're listening to this and you're not on thyroid, it doesn't matter. The bottom line of this is it's all about medical freedom, and our freedoms are being taken away as patients and clinicians every day, and it's so quiet and it's so subtle that people don't even know it until it's too late. And we're freaking determined to not let this thing happen. So, hey, we
Not to
need to
my
do that.
thyroid patients.
Yes, exactly. And hey, listen, there's probably people listening to this that are hypothyroid or on levothyroxine feeling like crap that didn't even know that there's a difference, and there is a difference. But we need to do this again and talk about other stuff. People
We
need to
will. We
stay
will.
tuned.
Well, thank you for coming on and chatting with me tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you guys all for watching us
that's
get on
true.
our little rant and raves. We can sometimes be a little more professional, but we were a little fired up tonight.
Yeah, it's
So
alive. This is us. This is us in real life.
this is
Um,
Dr. Cassie and Dr. Terri Unleashed.
yes, exactly. That's what we need to call it. Thanks a lot.
All right.